All right, so example one of three that we're planning for the rational functions. We're going to have to make sure we go through and graph these. So here's a little bit. This is also in our lesson notes. We're going to have to go through, figure out the y-intercept, figure out the x-intercepts, figure out where are the vertical asymptotes, what are the horizontal asymptotes, and then get an idea as to what the graph will look like based on the information that we're provided. So let's just dive in here. We've got a particular function here. So the first thing I can see when I look at this is I can figure out what the y-intercept is going to be right away by substituting 0 in. So this becomes a 0, this becomes 0, means my numerator is -6. This becomes 0, this becomes 0, which means my denominator is -2. So my y-intercept, which I can get right off the bat, the y-intercept is equal to, all right, so when x is 0, then y is a +3. So I am going to be 1, 2, 3 here. All right, I'm going to have to now go through and I need to factor. So I'm going to factor these two things. So I've got my sets of parentheses here because I'm going to factor. First terms in each in the numerator are going to be x and x. This tells me the signs are going to be the opposite of one another and that the larger one's going to be negative, so plus, minus. Factors of 6 that differ by 1, well, that's going to be a 3 and a 2. Then we go through and do it again for the denominator. So first terms in each are x and x. It has the same relationship where I have a negative sign here, and then I've got a negative sign here, so they're going to be opposite signs. And then factors of 2 that differ by 1. So the 2 goes over here and the 1 is there. So now to deal with my x-intercepts, I look for what will make the numerator 0, because to get a 0 of the function, it's just what values will make the entire function 0. In this case, when looking at a rational, I just have to look at the numerator, because the numerator is what's going to get me the function to equal 0. So our locations for these, well, if I put a -2 in here for x, then that's going to give me a 0 of the function. And if I put a 3 in here for x, then that's going to give me a 0 of the function. So I need to find these 2 points, and I'm just going to plot. So there's one there, and then 1, 2, 3 is the other one. Now let's deal with the vertical asymptotes. So the vertical asymptotes are going to be located at whatever value will make the denominator 0. So then that means I'm going to have them located at x equals -1, and I'm going to have the other one located at x equals +2. Well, I just happen to have down here a couple lines waiting to be grabbed, so I'll just grab those and we will move them to where they need to be. Not the dot. Try that again. There we go. So I'm going to turn this into a vertical line, and it's going to be at the location of x being -1. So x being -1 is about there. And then I need another one to go ahead and give me at +2. So that one will be there. And then, well, we should probably extend these to go all the way through. And I'll extend that to go all the way through. And now you can see where the asymptote lines are going to be. Now we've got to go through and figure out, okay, since these have the same degree, then that means that this is going to have a horizontal asymptote. Sorry about that. I'm going to have a horizontal asymptote, and that horizontal asymptote is going to be located, in this case, because they're the same degree, leading coefficient divided by the other leading coefficient. So that means I'm going to have that at y equals a +1. Again, I already have this handy dandy one chilling out down here, so I'm going to pull that up, and it's going to show up there. Now we can kind of get a feel as to what's going to happen with this because of the fact that our points, where the points are located. So we can go through and test a couple points. We can just figure out what the values would be for a couple different points. So let's say that I want to figure out, all right, I'm going to look over here and I'm going to choose, I don't know, -4. All right, so I want to figure out f of -4 because I'm thinking, looking at this graph, that this is going to curl this way and then curl down. This side's going to curl this way, curl down, and then I got to really figure out what's going on inside. So f of -4, just for kicks, so -4 squared is 16 minus -4, so +4 minus 6. Then we're going to have the same thing over here because we're looking at the same values right there. So now I'm going to end up with 14 divided by 18. So again, close to 1. So if I continue with my idea that this is going to go this way, and then curl down this way. Again, this is just a rough sketch. It would do the same thing on this side, and I can test it by going ahead and choosing another point. So if I decide to take f of 5, let's say, 25 minus 5 minus 6, 25 minus 5 minus 2. So in my numerator, this will be -11, so I'll get 14. And then in my denominator, that's going to, it's going to be 18 again. So it's the same idea. It's going to go through and curl this way and curl this way. I want to figure out what's going on up here, so I'm going to find out what's going on at 1. Okay, so I'm going to do f of 1, substitute values in, I get 1, minus 1, minus 6, divided by 1, minus 1, minus 2. So I get -3 over -2. Try that again. I get -6, way to go, Maine, over -2, which is 3. So that means I'm up here. All right, so now we got to figure out what goes on with this. I can go through and I can figure out where the middle point is going to be, in other words, my vertex, but this graph is going to do one of these. It's going to come up. It's going to turn in the middle here. It's going to come up because I'm doing a rough sketch. You won't end up with any graphs that have this down here, and another one that curls like this in the middle. It would only be a parabola bound by these asymptote lines above. It would not be in the same spot. Now, how do we know this? Because we're just going to go through and test points. You can test the point of 0.5 and see what happens. You can test the points of slightly above 1 and see what happens. And you'll see that it's going up in a positive direction. All right, you can also double check with Desmos to see what the points will be doing, but on our tests, on our quiz, we won't have access to Desmos.
Good afternoon, students and staff here.
Okay, so thank you again, and this is Robert Maine. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you very much.
Across the finish line for Charahoe this past weekend in Manchester, New Hampshire.